everyone, and welcome to the LDG Experience podcast. This week we are discussing the fourth Chaos God, Tzeentch. Tom, Pete, how are you guys?
I am fabulous. We are a little bit late today due to ineptitude and everything else, but other than that,
We got there.
It is really hard to record a podcast if you leave the microphone at home.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a very extended episode on the Systems of Silence.
Yes.
From their perspective.
From their perspective, it's all going to be done in thought mark.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I am good. Yes, I've had a good week.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got some news coming up soon, but we're not going to let it be out yet because. Well, even though this won't be out, we'll probably have it sorted by then. I'm still not telling anyone.
Yeah,
but we have news.
Time and space.
Time and space distortion.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes.
I'm doing well. We've been very successful on the stream recently, painting some cool stuff.
We've been painting, Pete.
Obviously Gazgol.
Yeah.
Finished. It looks freaking
Wow.
wicked. We got Makari done last night.
Excellent.
So his little banner bearer is ready to go. And we're now on to Rabute Gilliman.
Rowboat girly man.
Yeah, the scary thing is things are going a lot quicker than I expect. So planning out to do I was like, oh god, 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday stream, and I'll do, that'd be good for doing a character. And I'm like, oh crap, I did it in one night. Shit. So I'm having to build a backlog of things. So yeah, so keep your eyes out on our our social media and our eBay and things.
Yep.
At Onyx Dragon Gaming, where you can find me.
Yes.
Our Twitch stream is under the same name too, but there will be some lovely special characters for you to be able to purchase if you fancy from various different factions. We'll be expanding all the time because, like I say, these things are they're painting them a lot quicker than I expected. So far, we have Commander Farsight, Rabute Gilliman. What's the name of the sister? Oh, I can't remember what her name is now. The Grand Abbess of the Sisters of Battle.
Oh right, yes.
I can never remember what her name is. Yeah, she's actually a High Lord of Terror, in fact.
Oh, her. That's Bugger.
Yeah, my brain's just gone completely blank.
I remember when the model came out.
Yeah. The big gold Paragon warsuit. Yeah.
Paragon warsuit thing. Yes. Yeah.
But
her. Anyway.
She's as well as Scarbrand.
That ties in well with the core episode that came out the other day.
So there we go. Yeah, there's gonna be a bunch of them up for sale. So if you fancy adding these mighty characters to your armies, check us out and come find us on eBay and other sales channels, and you'll be able to purchase them from us.
Yes, so we are the Lazy Dragon Gaming.
Yeah.
And you can find us on Twitch at LD Gaming Live, where I stream Lorcana on Pixel 1, and my good lady wife is the Naughty Knitter, and she streams knitting. And she actually gets more followers than I do, because she's better at knitting than I am at Lorcana. So, but everywhere else, we are Lazy Dragon Gaming, and online at lazydragongaming.com, where you will also be able to see some of Pete's completed works, because Garden School is going up on our website, along with some other second-hand models that we will be putting up, some by Patch as well, which are Tyranids from the Leviathan box.
Ooh, exciting.
Painted in Leviathan colours, oddly.
Cool.
Because, you should do, really.
Well, yeah.
It's just kind of the thematic
Well, I mean,
thing.
if they're from High Fleet Leviathan.
I mean, I've gone for personally mine are being painted as Behemoth, but that's just.
Yeah, but they lost. So.
I know. I mean, they all lose eventually.
Yeah. But yeah, so Lazy Dragon Gaming on the YouTubes, where you can find this podcast, along with all the places you can find other podcasts. If you are listening on YouTube, if you would like to subscribe, that would be wonderful. To leave a comment for a question for me, Pete, or Evie.
Yeah.
If you want to ask Evie a question about anything Warhammer related, and we'll see if she can get it right. And then me and Pete will say yay or nay if she got it right or not.
Yeah, we'll allow.
We'll allow. Or disallow, depending. That's a red card. Objection, Your Honour, and all that nonsense.
Sustained.
Yes.
I
Sidebar.
might even be able to answer some wrestling questions.
You can, yes.
Because, I believe in Joe Hendry.
I also believe in Joe Hendry.
I can't remember him back in when he was first getting started.
Yes.
Is he now? Where's he now?
He's in TNA.
Oh, TNA.
And he is also at number 6 in the charts.
Yeah.
With his entrance music.
Really?
I believe in Joe Hendry.
Wow.
Yes. So,
wow.
if you are a wrestling fan and you're listening to this, let us know if you also believe in Joe Hendry, because he is actually so funny. I love that guy, he's great. But yeah, it's actually quite fitting discussing wrestling, because wrestlers, I feel, would be kind of either followers of Tzeentch or Slaanesh, depending. Not Khorne,
True.
because they're not really violent.
That's true.
Like, the violence isn't real. I think that would anger Khorne.
I mean, I can think of quite a few followers of Slaanesh off the top of my head.
Yeah. But with likes of Chris Jericho,
Oh yeah, it's all really
It's
psychological.
all the change,
Always changing, yeah.
always changing his
Good point,
character.
yeah.
Seth Rollins is another one. He's
Yes,
very.
also dresses like an idiot.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, that's very Tzeentchian.
it is. Yeah.
That leads into, of course, that we are talking about the last of the Chaos Gods
yes.
today. It's
By no means least.
but by no means least. And the one I do know the least about, however,
Yeah.
and that is Tzeentch. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to go and put the kettle on
Yeah.
and go for a pee, I will tell you all the titles that Tzeentch has. I hope you're ready. The Changer of Ways, I know this one.
Yep.
The Lord of Change, I also knew that one.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord of Sorcery, the Architect of Fate, the Great Conspirator, the Great Deceiver, the Lord of Entropy, the Master of Mutation, the Weaver of Destinies, the Father of Lies and Deception, the Great Eagle, the Raven God, Char, Shun, and Chen.
Indeed.
Yes, they are the names that are given to Tzeentch, the portfolio for Tzeentch. This is another one where you could also go to the bathroom. Change, evolution, mutation, intrigue, ambition, knowledge, sorcery, destiny, lies, and trickery, and people impart to you the sacred number of Tzeentch.
Which is 9.
9.
Which is really great for squads because it's a lot
Yes.
easier.
Yeah.
So this gets the short end of the stick when you're trying to do like sacred number squads because 6 guys is not usually enough. Yeah.
9 guys, however.
9 guys, good solid number.
Yeah. Also,
8 is clearly best, but you know,
I mean, it's not. It's obviously.
yeah.
I
Now,
quite like 8, it's even.
Yeah, so we go. Yeah.
followers of corn, all of you.
Yeah.
Colours, sacred colours, blue and gold, or an ever-changing rainbow.
Yes.
Yeah, you see.
Yeah.
Tzeentch's realm is known as the realm of the sorcerer and the demon legions. Now, this is my favourite of all the legion names.
Yeah.
Not the traitor legion, but the demon legion.
Yep.
They are called the scintillating legion.
Ooh.
I like that.
Yes.
I
They
like that.
scintillate hard.
They scintillate. And they are the direct rival, of course, of Nurgle.
Yes.
So, for those of us who are like me and don't understand words, what does scintillate mean?
Scintillating is like something that is very pretty. It's like tantalising.
Yeah.
Or appealing.
Visually kind of. Yeah, it's one of those words like I kind of know it, but I couldn't like. Yeah. Damn. Now I'd be asked to define it. I'm like.
So to be scintillating is to be in some way attractive through the mode of like change. Like so, for example.
Here we go.
Go on.
See, I found this
You
just
got
because
it,
I
okay.
thought let's just
Go on.
Scintillating, sparkling or shining brightly, or brilliantly and excitingly clever or skillful. So it actually works on both levels. That's the two. So when you could say the audience loved his scintillating wit.
Yes.
So yeah, that's kind of it fits both ways in the kind of
his wit was
sparkling
very,
and shining, but also like sharp and incisive wit.
His wit was very shiny.
Yeah.
Well, that would mean, I got that.
So that's what
scintillating.
Yes.
So that's the thing. So as I said, this is the demon. The god that I know the least about, but the Legion, the Traitor Legion, the Thousand Sons, I do know quite a lot about. Because their Primarch, Magnus the Red, Magnus was right.
no.
Magnus was right.
He did everything wrong.
He did it the best he could with the information he had.
No, he didn't.
Yes, he did.
Whilst
No,
you
we
guys
didn't.
have this
Anyway.
out, I'm going to go and have a
We'll
nap.
come back to the Thousand Sons. We'll talk about the rest of
Let's
things.
go through the demons first. So, in order from what I've got here, their demonic steed is a disc of Tzeentch.
Yes, which is technically nowadays under the current law is an evolution of one of their other demons, which is the Screamer.
I was going to say the demonic beasts.
Yes, which I think is Screamers, isn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah, they look like sort of giant manta rays with big tusks on the front.
Yes.
And
the Screamer, not the disc.
The Screamer, and a certain number of eyes. But yeah, when they can be sort of captured and changed into a disc of Tzeentch, which is the classical, let's say, mount for Tzeentchian sorcerers and lords, which is literally what it says on the tin. It's a disc. It can be somewhat fleshy or like mechanical looking, blades or teeth or tusks or eyes or all sorts. Because that's the thing about Tzeentch is there's no real fixed anything.
No.
Really? So yeah, the disc is like literally what it says. It's like
it's a flying disc.
It's a flying disc.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it says on the tin.
It looks like, if you're a Harry Potter fan, a fanged frisbee from the artwork. And it was basically a fanged frisbee is a frisbee with teeth, and they have teeth and claws around the outside.
Harry Potter Woolworths is just evil.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
In my opinion.
So you could if you painted them bright colours and added more eyes,
Yeah.
you would get a disc of Tzeentch.
Yes.
Wait until we tell him about the Monster Book of Monsters.
I know, right? It's a book that tries to eat you. Yes.
But only if you try opening it without stroking its back.
Spine. You're going to
Spine.
stroke the spine.
Okay, makes sense.
But anyway, very quickly before we cover this, if anybody pronounces Tzeentch, Tzeentch,
Oh yeah.
they need to, without being ironic, which is how I
Yeah.
do it. I do know that it is not pronounced Tzeentch.
Yeah.
They need to be taken out and beaten to death.
Because this is the thing of all the gods, the art like Korn,
Yep.
Nurgle,
Yep.
easy to pronounce. Slanesh, it's got an extra A, so
Yeah.
some people say Slanesh, some people say I say Slanesh.
Slanesh.
But Tzeentch is spelt, if I remember
Let's
right,
go on.
Tzeentch.
Correct.
Yeah, there are 2 silent T's in
There
there.
are 2 silent T's in
But
Tzeentch.
it's pronounced Tzeentch.
Yes.
If that, there's probably like professional ways of explaining
Not
pronunciation, but
Tzeentch.
Tzeentch.
No.
No,
It
it
is.
sounds like someone falling down some stairs.
Yes. No, it is Tzeentch. Both T's in Tzeentch are silent.
Yes.
Just to clarify that
Yeah.
before anybody says anything, if I do pronounce it with the T, it's because I'm being
You do it
ironic.
on purpose.
I'm doing it on purpose. I know.
And you can and you'll know because well you won't know, but I'll be shaking my head
Yeah.
off screen.
Well, I mean, we're not supposed to tell people that. We had this discussion last week.
What?
We are supposed to...
Oh yeah, accidentally mispronounced it.
Oh, shit.
For engagement reasons.
Oh, damn it.
Anyway.
Oh, God, I really ruined the algorithm there, didn't I?
You know, like the dead cannery.
The dead cannery, yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on from the disc, we have the Screamer, which is a beast.
Which is, like I said, it's literally like a big flying manta ray.
Yes.
They sort of... I believe they're called screamers because they kind of like make the kind of noise a bit like sort of like a Stuka bomber as they come screaming past you. Yeah, and then they just slash you as they go past.
Yes.
So like I said, they look like big giant manta ray looking motherfuckers.
So I have a leading... So it's okay for that beast to look like a manta ray,
Yeah.
but the fish elves are not okay to be on derpy sharks.
No.
Why is it more okay for one and not the other? I find this to be a double standard, Pete.
No, because one is a demon born from like is a demon of a chaos god whose absolute representation of it is everything that doesn't make sense and is like illogical and irrational,
Okay.
etc. Right, and the other is supposed to be some sort of underwater like civilization, right, that then comes onto land and fights people, yet is somehow still riding fish. This makes no sense. Like, I can understand if they were under the water still fighting, they would still look derpy as all hell, but they would be underwater fighting. Fine, whatever. That's very, like, Aquaman, Atlantis. But they're supposed to be on land, and there's, like, I don't know if they're supposed to have, like, some enchanted sea that comes with them, or something, or, no, it just doesn't make any sense. I don't like it, didn't like it, and I said, I'll give you the turtle, but the sharks and the eels are just weird.
But bright blue manta rays with far too many eyes that float around attacking people, that's okay.
Yes, because they're demons.
Okay.
And again, they're demons of a god whose specific, like, Redditor is like, that thing makes no sense! And he's like, yes, haha! Like, whereas the fish elves are like, we have a whole society that's based on, like, living under the sea. We use these undersea creatures to do things. And you're like, fair enough, I get that, I understand. I've seen Aquaman, I've seen how that can work. And like, aha, but no, we will attack the surface dwellers! On the fish! And I'm like, unless they're flapping up the beach, looking like they're having a stroke, that doesn't make any sense.
I do like the idea of the shark being like, what are you doing?
Flapping up the beach with these poor elves in the back going, forward, my steed! Plop, plop, flop. Like the turtle at least can, we've seen turtles, they climb up the beach, right? It's going to be slow, but they can sort of, do it.
Yeah.
But the sharks are just going to be like, on the beach.
Magic up much?
Magic
Anyway.
Yes. So,
Enough of that, I could be on this all night.
the other demonic beast
Yes.
is a flamer of Tzeentch.
Yes, so these are...
I think
flamers are kind of an extension of the main... Everything in Tzeentch is kind of an extension of something else, really.
Yeah.
The flamers are like... So, the main lesser demons... Because we should probably explain them first.
Let's come into them.
Yeah, but they kind of need to explain them to kind of make flamers make sense.
Okay.
So, the main lesser demon of Tzeentch is the pink horror. It's kind of a weird, vaguely... I don't want to say humanoid. They've got legs and arms, and they're mostly sort of head with arms attached, with limbs attached. If you think of it that way,
Look a bit like Mike Wazowski.
Mike Wazowski. Yeah, Mike Wazowski, if he was pink and slightly more tentacle. Like, because they have a little weird, like...
They have a tentacle
pseudopods.
mohawk. And,
yeah, sort of pseudopods. And they can sometimes have other features and things like that. So, pink horrors are the mainstay demons of Tzeentch. They mostly are, unlike the other demons, they're mostly concerned with ranged attacks. So what they tend to do is throw magical fire at people.
Mm-hmm.
Classically, in like Warhammer, for example, you'd have a big group of pink horrors. The bigger the unit, the more powerful magic they would cast as a wizard. And they would be able to cast a more powerful spell depending on how many of them there were. The cool thing about horrors is, which is one of the things I've always loved, and it went away for a while in the game, but has now come back, and I love this to pieces, is if you were to strike down a pink horror, it will not die, it will split, and form two, slightly lesser, blue horrors.
Oh, bugger.
Yes. So that was always really fun. It was a bit of a logistical nightmare back in the day, in like Warhammer, where you have a nice ranked up unit, and they'd kill a bunch of them, and then just all these blue horrors would appear. And you had to obviously, as a hobbyist, you had to have like, I've got 20 pink horrors, so I've got to make sure I've got 40 blue horrors somewhere just in case, all painted up, ready to go. But yeah, so they took that away for a while. They just gave them 2 wounds, and I was like, oh.
No, they're back now.
But no, they're back. They've been back for
now.
They've been back for a while.
Yeah.
As always, whenever I say new in the lore, assume this is somewhere between 10 and 15 years old.
Yep.
Because that's how I view things. So yeah, they split into blue horrors, which are slightly less powerful versions of the pink horrors. They still throw magical flame, etc. And then in the more recent versions of Tzeentchian demon things, they introduced a third class of lesser demons known as brimstone horrors. So when you kill a blue horror, they split into a bunch of brimstone horrors. These are literally like tiny sentient flames.
These are like the classical impy looking demons.
Yeah, they're literally like sentient looking flames.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of... There's various expressions of that across folklore and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, you probably can picture that.
All I can think of are the Will-o'-the-Wisps from...
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
That's basically it. Yeah.
So,
yeah, those are your basic list demons. So, extending from that, a flamer is kind of a really powerful... It's kind of a bit... It looks a bit like a pink horror, but extended out. So they tend to be big, long, and lithe. They used to be very different looking. They used to have weird like bird beaks and weird arms. But now they're like a really stretched out pink horror. They've got more... They don't really have legs as such. They've more got sort of like a billowy kind of looking... It looks like a cloak, but it's also their body as the bottom end. And they've got big gaping mouths and arms, and they just throw ridiculous amounts of fire. Things of different colours. Because this is the other thing is, back in the day, and I don't know if it's still true, Tzeentchian magic was called the X-Fire of Tzeentch.
I see.
And depending on the colour, depending on what it did.
Aha!
So, like, you would have the blue fire of Tzeentch, which might actually just set people on fire. The one I remember the most is green fire, because green fire used to make a unit fight itself. And one of my classical opponents back in the day was used to cast it on my Dark Elf Executioners, who would then promptly cut each other's heads off.
Yes.
And I'd just be like... So yeah, you used to get like red fire, yellow fire, blue fire, green fire, and then purple fire or indigo fire, which would turn people into horrors. Rightly, like
more horrors.
You'd be like, haha, and you'd kill a bunch of them, and anyone who died would turn into a horror. And if you killed at least 5 people, you could spawn a new unit of 5 horrors.
Ooh.
Yeah,
cool.
that
sounds pretty cool.
So yeah, that was like there was the indigo fire or purple fire. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was called. It's been a while.
Yeah,
that was
like that was
6th
a long,
edition, I want to say.
a long time ago's thing. I think they now just have Tzeentchian fire, and I think it now just does burn.
But obviously, fire is one of the big motifs of Tzeentch because obviously it's always changing and the different colours and all that sort of thing. So yes, that's so moving on.
Yeah, moving on to the heralds.
Yes, so the heralds are like really powerful. As with all the other gods, they're really powerful lesser demons.
Yep.
So
they do. It does have one name on which is actually comes up quite a lot in 40k
is
lore.
this the little?
This is
there's 2 of them. Yes,
changeling.
Yes,
the changeling.
As a Dark Angels player, I am very angry.
Yeah, so the changeling is one of the ones that...
So he kind of looks a bit like... It looks a little bit like a flamer in that he has that weird floating thing. But he has like his top half is shrouded in a big hood.
Yep. Because
his ability, as the name suggests, is that he can change his form to anything.
Yes. And
so he can be anyone. So the Changeling is responsible for a lot of horrible things to do with the Dark Angels, but not just limited to them. He has been involved in a lot of instances, and it feels like they've retconned a few others. They've been like, it was this guy.
I'm pretty certain that he was responsible for allowing a tendril of a Hive Fleet into a Hive Fleet.
Craftworld, I think. Kraken, attacking them.
Yeah, I think that was the Changeling.
Yeah, he's organised a few. Yeah, it's him.
And various other...
There's a few trickster deities around, and that do these sort of things. The Deceiver, the Satan Deceiver, or Shard Deceiver, used to do similar things. And the other kind of do on a daily basis. But yeah, so that's the Changeling. Yep. The other named lesser demon of Tzeentch is, well, two of them technically, are the Blue Scribes. They're actually more of a whimsical kind of thing.
Yes.
So a lot of the named stuff that we have now for the named lesser demons and named greater demons all came about from the 6th edition Demons of Chaos Warhammer Iron book, which had a lot of repercussions in the game, both good and bad.
Just a few. But
the good stuff, the lore stuff was pretty solid. Yeah. So a lot of the really cool named characters. And the Blue Scribes are pretty cool. So they are two little blue horrors who have been given a little bit of extra intelligence by Tzeentch, but with a limit. They are tasked with writing down every spell in existence, documenting every spell in existence. So the model is a big disc of Tzeentch with a bunch of books piled around it, and then two little blue horrors on the back, one writing away furiously, one reading away. Because what Tzeentch did was like, I need them to be able to have the intelligence to do all these things, but with a limit. So one of them can write down any spell they come across, they just know how to write down, but they can't read a damn word of it.
Okay.
And the other can read anything that's written down, but has no idea what any of it means.
Oh, okay.
So in game it was hilarious because they'd be reading out spells and they would just go off. Like, you know what he was doing. He'd just be like, I cast Fireball. Oh crap! And then the Fireball would go off.
That sounds like me trying to read my notes for something.
Yeah, I know what you mean, right? So yeah, they're quite fun. They were a little bit, like I said, the more whimsical side.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the sort of lesser characters.
Moving
Moving up, we obviously have
greater demons.
Yes.
Demon princes of Tzeentch. Like all the other demon princes, they were mortal followers who did something amazingly good and were elevated to demon princehood by the deity. There are a bunch of named ones. Yeah. None of which...
I can't think of any really big, powerful ones I can think of off the top of my head.
I don't like a lot of
that have like big lore.
Yeah, repercussions and stuff. But there are quite a few of them. And what have you. The next one, the greater demon, is the Lord of Change.
The Lord of Change.
He's kind of Skeksis looking.
For those people who remember the absolute creepy fest that was the Dark Crystal.
Yes.
But they're a bit more. They're less sort of bulky and hunched because they've actually got wings. I think of them as like a bipedal bird that's slightly hunched over, still got big wings. It's got 4 limbs, and then it's got a massive staff in one hand. Usually, it's the sort of classical depiction
and
of
for ever-changing colours.
Yes, so like especially the wings. Yeah, they tend to shimmer with all sorts of colours that are both real and not real.
Yeah.
Scintillating.
There we go.
Yes, they are scintillating.
They do it.
I learned a new word.
Yes,
there we go.
We're going to get that into every conversation possible.
Word of the day to our
The other thing, actually, which I just remembered, a very good friend of ours, Bill Doran. I believe painted a Lord of Change and won a golden demon with it.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah,
there's a few of those statues knocking about.
It does have some of them, yes. But the Lord of Change,
the named one,
is Kairos Fateweaver.
Yes, who has a great backstory.
He does have a fantastic backstory, which Pete is going to tell us.
Yes. So in the realm of Tzeentch lies the Impossible Fortress, which is the name of Tzeentch's inner stronghold. And inside the Impossible Fortress is something called the Well of Eternity. Now, this Well of Eternity contains every piece of knowledge about everything ever, anywhere. It's like a fully functional Wikipedia that you're allowed to cite everything. But it has on everything, like absolutely everything, whether you want to know about it or not. So the problem is that Tzeentch is fascinated with the Well of Eternity. He wants to know everything, but he can't access it. He has no ability to access. He knows that everything he wants is in there, but he's been trying. It's the one puzzle he cannot solve, and he's obsessed with it because obviously part of his raison d'etre is the quest for knowledge. So one day, being really frustrated and realising he didn't want to risk himself going in there, he grabbed a nearby Lord of Change, who happened to be Kara's favourite.
One lying around.
Yeah, just yeeted it into the Well of Eternities and was like, hopefully something will happen and maybe it won't die. After an absolute eternity, Kairos managed to claw his way back out of the well, and now had two heads. The left head of Kairos can see the past, like the whole of the past, but without any kind of bias. It's just the truth. So it's exactly how things happen without any kind of bias or what's the word you're looking for?
The rose-coloured glasses.
Yeah, the rose-coloured glasses or anything like that.
Yeah,
without any perspective
true
or anything like that. Yeah, it's literally exactly how it happened. And his right head can see all the possible futures, and as they shift and know exactly which ones are going to come to pass, etc., and help them, obviously. The only downside is that this means that Kairos has absolutely no perception of the current moment.
I see.
As like I said, this is exactly how I feel a lot of the time. You know, I can remember things from 30 years ago with absolute clarity. You know, I know exactly where I'm going to be in 6 months' time, but I can't remember why I came in the kitchen.
Yep. No, we get that.
Yeah, which is really fun because it makes him, like, because he knows everything. Especially about magic. Like, he knows literally every spell, like charm, sigil, everything. Makes him an absolute unmatched spellcaster. So you just don't want to go up against him in that realm. However, because he has absolutely no concept of the present, you can run up and kick him in the nards really easily. If Lords of Change have nards, I assume they have some sort of weird shifting thing down there. But yeah, you can literally just like run up and punch him because he has no concept of like the present, so he can't see you. Like he might know you're going to run up and do it, but like he has no concept of you whilst you're actually doing it. Yeah. So he's like absolutely.
So the trick would be to not think about it. Not formulate a plan, because that would then be the future, which you would know.
Yeah.
So in order to beat Kairos, you have to just wander up to him aimlessly.
Yeah.
And randomly start doing shit.
And then just shiv him. Well, once you're there, you're fine. You can just go at him.
Yeah.
Because he has no ability to defend himself.
Yeah.
This is represented by the fact that when he first came out, like almost all of it, like even for a great demon, like most of his stats are ones.
Yes.
Because like he's just like he just can't attack. His weapons go 1. It's 1 attack and initiative 1. Because he's kind of like, like vaguely
wafting in the general.
But however, he did know like a ridiculous amount of spells. So yeah, like I said, if you try to go up against him in that respect, you would just get absolutely effed.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's like I said, he's quite a fascinating character. He's had a bit more sort of expansion over the years.
Yes, he was involved quite heavily in the return of Rabute Gilliman.
Yes.
And the fall of Cadia.
Yes, because like Tzeentch sends him out for the most because he knows so much. Yeah. He's sent out for the really big things. The important.
So I do believe that Kairos actually captured Gulliman.
Yes, I think I remember.
And this is the cause of some consternation. Because, so I think it was Euron Blackheart, but I might be wrong about that bit. They, with Tzeentch, captured Gulliman and the Terran Crusade. Yeah. Essentially. And rather than executing all of them on the spot and being like, haha, we won! Yes! Kairos is like, no. We're not going to do that.
No.
I want to corrupt this Primarch. So lock them all away.
Yep.
And I will formulate a plan that will corrupt this Primarch.
Yes.
And while they were formulating the plan, this very lesser known fallen from the Dark Angels, what's his name? Oh yes,
Cypher. Yeah.
Pops into
surprise, motherfucker.
Pops into Gulliman's cell and says, "Haha, returning Primarch. I have a deal I want to strike with you. I can get you out of here, for it is a cell, and I am notorious for not being held by any cell. But if I do that, you will take me to see the Emperor, and bring me before the Emperor of Mankind into his audience chamber."
Yeah. A deal which he went back on real quick.
So, and Gulliman, being the shrewd Primarch that he is, went, yeah, okay, we'll do that. You get me out of here with my Terran Crusade.
Yep.
And I will take you to Terra. So he does. And then they get to Terra. And the custodians go, well, you're Gulliman. And he goes, yes, I am. And I'm going in to see my father. And they go, what are we going to do about this one? And he goes, lock him up.
Yeah.
He's like...
I was so angry about that when that happened. I was like, you fucking teased us with actually doing something with sci-fi. I was like,
doing
that's gonna be
something.
fucking brilliant. I'm really excited when this happens. And then they just were like, nope.
No. Because, let's face it, there was no way that Gulliver was ever taking him in to see the Emperor. And yet Cypher's like, well, he must be telling the truth. He's a Primarch. That's not how Primarchs work. Like, nothing has ever been said that Gulliver would never lie for his own benefit. Like, of course he said yes. He was getting him out.
Still a bellend, and I'm still mad about it after all these years.
But they did do a little bit of retconning about that.
Yeah.
Where essentially, I believe
he does escape the thing, and in the book Cypher, I believe he escapes it, makes it all the way to
the throne room,
just about to go to the throne room, and basically he gets a message in his head that just says, "Not now,
not now, too soon."
And he's like, "Oh,
well, okay,
cool,
I'll fuck off then." Yeah, so he
swishes his cloak and disappears.
Swishes his cloak and off he goes, because of course Cypher can't be held by anything.
Yes.
So that is the last thing that I know that Kairos was involved in. But over time, I believe he's been involved in a few other bits and pieces.
Yes.
And that brings us now to the legion that fell to Tzeentch.
The one you do know.
My favourite, the Thousand Sons, whose Primarch, of course, is the ever vaulted Magnus the Red.
Yes.
The one-eyed spellcaster.
Yes.
Their homeworld was Prospero.
Yeah.
And that is going to be a big thing, because it's part of the reason that Magnus ended up falling to Tzeentch, because he didn't do it willingly.
Well,
wasn't willing. It was forced upon him. He was oft mistreated.
Even though he was given all the bloody option time to turn away from it, but no. I don't have any sympathy. The one member of the Thousand Sons, which is the Legion, I have sympathy for is Ahriman.
Ahriman's a whiny little bitch, though.
Oh, no, see, this is the thing, right? It's
he is, though. Right, hang on.
In the novel Thousand Sons,
we need to set the stage first. Then we can come to the thing. So, Magnus the Red is the Primarch of the 15th Legion.
Yes.
The Thousand Sons.
Mm-hmm.
The reason they are called the Thousand Sons is because when after the Primarchs were scattered into the galaxy, the Thousand Sons who were more psychic than
any other Legion.
They were suffering something called the Flesh Change.
Yes.
Which basically turned them into Chaos Spawn, although they didn't know it at the time that's what they were.
They just started growing random things.
Yeah, just suddenly erupting tentacles or whatever, and they were having to kill their own sort of dudes. And this was bad.
And they went from a legion of 100,000, which was their average, to literally just
about 1,000.
About 1,000 of them.
And this is where the name comes from.
Yes.
So it's Thousand Sons, S-O-N-S, not S-U-N-S.
No.
Which is sometimes confusing.
Yes, I always thought it was S-U-N-S.
Yes, a lot of people do make that. They believe it's the Thousand Sons.
It doesn't help that the symbol is kind of like a flaming sun.
Yeah, that doesn't help a lot. But then they find Magnus.
Yes.
And Magnus comes back and he cures the Flesh Change.
Yes, somehow. He makes some kind of deal.
He does. And this is... I don't know if they've actually written this into canon hard or if it's just sort of thing that gets hinted at in different novels.
Mostly the hint.
But it's believed that when Magnus came back and found his legion was decimated by the Flesh Change, that he did a deal with Tzeentch to stop it.
Yeah, I also believe this is kind of... It's also like... They've also changed... Because the reason why Magnus he has one eye.
Yes.
Now, in really old depictions, he literally had the classic Cyclops eye in the middle of the forehead.
Yeah, he doesn't have that anymore.
No, because I believe this is a allusion to the story of Odin.
Yes.
Who sacrificed his eye on the tree of to gain knowledge.
Yes.
And understanding. And I think this is a similar thing. Is that part of the deal was that's why he's only got the one eye.
Mm.
Is that it was the deal that made him sacrifice that eye.
I see.
As far as I'm aware. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty
sure. It would make sense, because I don't think we ever get really told how he loses an eye.
No, but I'm sure it's hinted at massively that part was part of the deal. Like he gained the knowledge to cure the Flesh Change, but he sacrificed his eye.
Okay.
Now, Tzeentch being Tzeentch, he basically was just like... Tzeentch was doing it in the first place. So he just sort of like went in the background, sort of flipped the switch off for a little while.
So then the Thousand Sons started to get better and were like able to recruit again, and they weren't having to execute their own dudes anymore until they're on a campaign with the Space Wolves.
Yes.
And one of their brothers succumbs to the Flesh Change again. And is put down by... Now, I can't remember whether it is actually Lehman Russ or just a member of the Space Wolves.
I can't remember this bit.
But yeah, so there's a big thing where one of them succumbs to the flesh change and they get put down and they're like, oh crap, it's starting again. That's not good. And then, of course, the Horus Heresy kicks off not long after that.
Well, this is the thing, because we're missing one important moment.
Go on.
Or two important moments.
Oh.
So, the problem thing about Magnus is he's a massively powerful psycho.
Yes.
Like, he's the second most powerful psycho after the Emperor, arguably. I don't know where Malkadorf is in the rankings, but I'm pretty certain he's third.
Yeah, I think it's very often stated that
he's either second or third. I'm pretty certain he's third because, anyway. So, the thing about Magnus is he's obsessed with knowledge. He was brought up on a planet known as the Planet of Sorcerers, which is Prospero, which is like almost like a big library world. Like, it's kind of, they have these massive pyramids, they're all about learning and gaining understanding and knowledge of whatever, of magic and sorcery, as referred to. But as far as Magnus is concerned, I know better than everybody else. I'm much smarter. I can understand everything. There's no such thing as bad knowledge. You know, I can do whatever I want. And the Emperor's kind of taken him to one side and kind of revealed like a bunch of stuff about like chaos and the warp, and kind of gone, look, you need to know that there is stuff that, like, I get that you really want to learn everything, but you need to know that some stuff you shouldn't know. And try to explain that, just knowing it will make things bad. Like, it's knowledge that shouldn't be known. And Magnus is like, cool dad, but I'm better than you, and I can learn it because I'm awesome. You know, there's nothing I can't do. And this is Magnus's biggest flaw, is he believes his own hype. Like, he thinks that everything, like, he has no limits. Like, he can do everything he wants because he's all-powerful. Anyway, this leads on to the Council of Nicaea, which is one of the big moments pre-heresy, where at this point the Librarius has been introduced to the various legions, Psychers have been sort of accepted and trained more and used and harnessed and focused. It's Magnus, Jagatai Khan, I think Sanguinius are like the main people responsible for this. The main Primarchs are in favour of it.
Yeah, the ones that are actually Psychers.
Yeah, well, Jagatai's not.
Well, Jagatai's not, but Sanguinius certainly is.
So the whole thing is like they're really for it. On the opposite side are the Space Wolves and also Mortarion of the Death Guard, who absolutely despise Psychers. The Space Wolves being massively hypocritical, who have their
shaman, right?
They're shaman, yeah. They're like, we don't use them warp at all. We use the power of Fenris, and everyone's like, no, you twats, you're using magic. Yeah. But anyway, they have this big debate, and the Emperor rules, because he realises the path that the Magnus is going down, and he rules that no, we need to stop this happening. So he basically says, no more Librarians. All the Psychers will stop using their powers and go back to the ranks to where they used to be. Magnus, you need to stop delving into sorceries and things like that. And Magnus is really upset and basically goes back to Prospero and sulks. Being Magnus, though, he doesn't give up.
He also doesn't pay any attention to the decree of Nicaea.
He is the one that discovers that what's happening to Horus. So at this point, Horus gets stabbed on Davin and taken into the Serpent Lodge. Healed, where Erebus takes him on a vision sort of thing and tries to tempt him to the side of chaos. Magnus kind of gets wind of this and uses a massive spell to project himself in there, and is like, no brother, don't do it, kind of thing. And
so there is a really cool bit, because this happens really early on in the Horus Heresy.
Yeah,
where this is one of the bits that actually annoys me when it's put to paper, because it sounds so much worse.
Yes.
Whereas when it's told as a fireside story, you kind of go, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. But essentially, while recovering from being stabbed by this an anatheme, the killer brass anatheme.
It's called the anatheme. Yeah, it's literally
it's a Primarch killing knife.
Well, it can kill anything.
Yeah.
The whole point is you tell it a name, and it becomes the bane of that thing. It becomes the anathema to that thing.
Yeah. So so basically he's sort of healing him up, and Erebus, the notorious liar,
absolute shithead,
absolute dick that he is like, look, Horus, look at what will happen in the future.
Yeah, and this is one of the clever things about Chaos is they basically show Horus the future. They show him like 40k, and they take him to a planet, and they're like, oh my god, look at these massive temples to the Emperor, all these statues to my brothers, specifically, obviously, what would become the loyal Primarchs, and he gets really angry. He's like, where's my statue? Like, where are the statues of Mortarion and Angron? And he's like, the fuck? You know, like, oh my god, we can't let this future come to pass. Yeah. And it is preying a bit on his arrogance, because obviously, you know, he should just be happy that humanity's existing and that the Emperor's doing so well and everything. And he's like, but my brother said he wasn't a god and now he's being treated as one and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it's really clever because it's using the truth of the future, but it's only the truth if he makes the choice.
Yes.
Like, that's the whole point. The only reason this happens is because he goes down this path.
Yep.
And it prays on this.
Ebenezer Scrooge's Ghost of Christmas Future.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you choose this path,
this is where it ends.
Future.
Yeah,
This is
but
how
they
it
don't.
ends.
But the way the chaos is very clever and insidious is he doesn't tell you that bit.
No.
He just goes, look, what will happen? And you go, oh shit, I better do something this other. And he's
Yeah.
like, great, now you're on the path that will do that.
Do that.
Because they know that that's what Horus needs.
Yes.
You need to feed his arrogance and his need for his ego.
Yeah.
And obviously this is when Magnus turns up in sort of spiritual form and he's like, don't listen to this piece of shit.
He's lied to you twice
Like,
before.
yeah, he's done all this stuff.
Proved that he's
And
lied to you twice before.
again,
Brother, don't listen to him.
I think this is a cool thing because it shows like Horus is his arrogance. Is he kind of chooses to be like, oh, but you're breaking Dad's rules. You know, like, I need to do this for the sake of humanity and I must be the one.
Yeah.
I will take this horrible burden on myself. You know, and it's like, no. We all know he's doing the bad thing for bad reasons, but he's lying to himself at this point.
Yeah,
So anyway, Magnus is like, oh shit, well I couldn't get through to him. I need
better-
to warn Dad.
I better tell Dad!
And instead of being the sensible thing of like, let us take ship to Terra, he's like, I know how I can get there really quickly. So he goes, I know, I'll cast this ridiculously powerful spell. It's almost this forbidden spell that I've learned.
I read it in a book.
Yeah, and it will project my consciousness all the way through the warp to Dad, and I can tell him what's happened. So he goes about the spell, and he's like, right, cool, and it shoots him off through the warp. And the most direct route is through the webway, the connection that the Golden Throne on Earth, which is being used as a gateway, or help build a gateway to the webway, and Magnus's spirit comes smashing through like a bull in a china shop, just smashes through all the wards, all the stuff that I think breaks through, and he's like, Dad, I've got some important message, and the Emperor's like, oh, for fuck's sake. It's almost like he just comes smashing through a greenhouse.
Yep.
You know, he's there, sorting out the plants, he comes smashing through the wall of the greenhouse rather than using the door. And the Emperor's like, all of this shit is irreplaceable.
Yep.
And it's now fucked.
Yep.
This was my grand plan. In fact, actually, the plan was for you to sit in the fucking chair.
Yeah.
Because you could have guided the destiny of all of humanity from that chair. And we could have solved the need for psychers and all that sort of shit. And I fucking told you.
And this is a one-of-a-kind thing that I
Yeah.
don't have another one.
Yeah, and now the entirety of the Earth is going to be sucked into the warp. Thanks, dickhead. And at the same time, he's obviously there going, but Dad, Horus is going to betray you. And you know, obviously, he's got the evidence of, you have broken all my rules, you have betrayed me by what you've just done. And he's like, right, Horus is my brightest and best son. You're talking out of your ass. Clearly, you've been deceived. Look at all the shit you've just done. That's it. I've had enough. You are coming back to Terra to answer for what you've done. And Magnus, to his credit at this point, goes, oh fuck, I'm sorry, Dad.
Yeah.
Shit. Because he tells him about he shows him about the Golden Throne and what his place was supposed to be and all that sort of stuff. And Magnus goes, oh, fuck. So the Emperor's like, yeah.
Yeah.
So fortunately, I'm going to have to send my errand boy, my sanction, to Prospero to bring you back. So he sends the Space Wolves to Prospero to drag Magnus back to a Terra. At this point, Magnus is very much like, fair cop, gov.
Yep.
When they come here, I'm not going to put up a fight.
Yep.
I'm just going to go. There are various weird machinations behind the scenes, which I still don't totally 100% understand at this stage, despite having read that book hundreds of times. There's some machinations of Horus that kind of make it so that they end up fighting.
Yeah,
rather
so
than,
this is the one thing that
I'm still
I've
not 100%
always
sure.
gone,
Yeah.
wait a minute, did Lehman Russ not check when his orders got changed from bring him back to Terra to exterminatus?
Well, look, because in the book, he still says he's still trying to, like, take him in alive. Because in the book, they come to the system and they open up communications and he's like, Magnus, I'm here. You know, just come quietly and we don't have to do this. And shenanigans happens. And a fight. Because also, a lot of the Legion are like, no. Not for Magnus' Legion, like, fuck no.
Yeah.
We're not going to... Because there's, like I said, the Space Wolves start landing and attacking because they've been misled. And Magnus is like, don't fight them. Just let them come in, take me away, and I'll do it. And Araman and the rest of the sort of leaders of the Legion are like, no, fuck off.
Yep.
Like, we have to fight. We have to fight for ourselves. We have to fight for our own, thing. This doesn't go well. The planet is absolutely ruined. Eventually, Magnus is like, oh my god, all my sons are dying. I have to step onto the field and do something about this myself. He ends up in single combat with Russ. And this is the thing, and it's something that gets really complicated later on, but this is the point, effectively, where Magnus is killed.
Yes.
His physical body is destroyed. Russ breaks his back over his knee, and just as he's about to deliver the killing blow, Magnus utters a spell that kind of dissolves him into the warp.
Yep.
It's at this point you never see a physical manifestation of Magnus ever again, in the same way. Like his original body is gone forever.
Yeah,
pretty much. He is now an entity. He's also shattered as well. They're like very
so there's some really cool bits with him where
it's something we could do I think we should do as his own episode.
Yeah,
is Magnus and his various shards.
Yeah.
But the point being is they go off into the warp. They find this planet called Saltiarius.
The planet of the
sorcerers, and it's kind of where they go to lick their wounds. And eventually Horus comes to him and is like, they treated you like shit, didn't they? You can come and get some revenge. And eventually Magnus is like, fuck it, go on then.
Yeah.
And he kind of accepts that Tzeentch has been behind a lot of the stuff that's done to him. And anyway, so yeah, that's where we get to. That's the main bit of their story.
That's Magnus. But while all this is going on, his first captain,
is
Azek Araman.
Azek Araman, another character which from the books I really enjoy.
Yeah, so he is the
chief librarian,
chief librarian and first captain, I think.
I believe so.
I think so. He basically was an original member of.
Yes, because this is one of the things that drives him, and it's one of those big core characters. He had a twin brother. Yes,
who was also selected to be in the Legion.
Yes, unfortunately, his twin brother was a victim of the flesh change.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very important moment in his life because this determines a lot of what will happen after. So, Araman, for the most part during the heresy, has his feet pretty much on the floor. Like, he sees his brothers and stuff using their psychic powers to do all sorts of meaningless crap. Yeah. So, like, they just use the psychic powers to take apart and clean their bolters for him. And he'll like, no, I'm going to do this by hand. It's like, yes, it's great we have these abilities, but we shouldn't forget that we're also people.
Yeah.
We should keep ourselves grounded and not let ourselves become these airy-fairy, sword-free weirdos.
Yeah.
And that's his main voice during the heresy. He's the one that's kind of going, maybe we shouldn't do the thing. Yeah. Where Magnus is like, nah, it's fine. And Azek's like, yeah, but is it though? And that's probably his biggest strength during the heresy. Anyway, so after all the stuff with Prospero happens, and they end up on the planet Saltiaris, and obviously a lot of people go, now they kind of go, oh fuck it, the gloves are off. Yep. People start going, Tzeentch is great! And obviously Tzeentch goes, cool, now I don't have to keep the switch off anymore.
Let's put it back on.
Because, yeah, I love me some tentacles and some, like, feathers and shit. So, more and more of the Legion start coming against the flesh change, becoming these weird, chaotic gribblies. Araman is obviously beside himself at this point. He's like, oh my god, the Legion's going to die again. We need to do something about this. So he forms a small cabal, and he basically, first he goes to Magnus, and he's like, Magnus, you do something about this. And Magnus is like, I'm busy being awesome. Yeah. Fuck off. So he's like, right, I'll do it myself. So he goes away, and he creates this spell, which will becoming known as the Rubric of Araman. Now, this is an incredibly powerful spell that's meant to affect every member of the genetic line of the Thousand Sons everywhere. And it's a forever, once and for all, forever, keep them safe from the flesh change. Which it does. However. Unfortunately. Yeah. So, as they're about to cast a spell, Magnus kind of gets wind of this and he's like, oh shit, no, don't you fucking dare. And he tries to stop them, but it doesn't work. They cast the spell, and what happens is, all of the really powerful, psychically powerful members of the Thousand Sons are physically unaffected. Like, they don't, nothing really much happens to them. They kind of, some of them get sealed in their armour and things, but they are now forever protected from the flesh change. Like, they will not, like, turn into wibbly monsters unless they embrace, like, unless they do it themselves. Because there's a few, like, weird mutant sorcerers and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can get some mutations that you actually accept.
Yes. Yeah. And that's on purpose. But all the less powerful members, all their armour gets sealed and they are turned to dust. So they literally turn to dust inside their armour and they lose all of their, like, pretty much all of their sentience and become automata. So these are what we now know as the Rubric Marines. So you tend to find, like nowadays, if you come across a member of the Thousand Sons, if you come across them and they can talk and interact with you, they tend to be quite a powerful sorcerer. They will have several or up to hundreds of followers who are like almost like robots.
Yeah.
Which they can control with their psychic powers. They can basically order them to do stuff. They still can fight and all that sort of stuff, but they don't have any kind of autonomy.
Yeah.
They are literally these robots. And obviously that's what's happened to the Thousand Sons. And that's how we see them as they are now. You tend to have a unit of Rubric Marines who's a sorcerer, a lesser sorcerer, with a bunch of these sort of robotic Marines around them, which makes them kind of relentless and implacable and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, they don't really do running away.
Yeah. Araman then goes on, like, he gets exiled by Magnus from Saltiarius, and basically goes, well, fuck you, I'll create my own planet with blackjack and hookers.
Yep.
And kind of goes off and just wanders the galaxy learning everything he possibly can. He also then starts having an obsession with the Black Library.
Yeah, so at some point during his journey, he learns that within the webway, guarded by the Harlequins,
is a craft world that is a repository of all knowledge.
Yeah, it's all the knowledge
of the old ones, the
and
Eldar. Basically, it's not as like perfect as the Well of Eternity, but it's pretty close.
Pretty close, and it's all written down. It's supposed to be a big fountain.
So he's absolutely obsessed with getting there. And a lot of his shtick is now from then on is based around ways to get there. He ends up in conflict with one of the few humans who's ever been allowed to set foot in the Black Library. An inquisitor by the name of Sevak. If you can find it, there is an awesome novel about him called Atlas Infernal.
Ah, yes.
Which I really wish had a sequel because it's freaking awesome. So Sevak, he goes to the Black Library, he leaves, goes on about his business, but Araman starts hunting him because he's like, well, if I can rip your mind asunder, I can figure out how to get into the Black Library. After a while, the Harlequins get fucking sick of this shit about him nearly, and they're like, no. So they end up kidnapping Sevak and making him an exhibit in the Black Library, effectively.
You are now staying here forever.
Yes, because they're like, we're sick of Araman almost getting to it. During the original 13th Black Crusade story, the Eye of Terror campaign, he got really... That was what he was doing. That was his story at the time. Was he found Sevak and found a way to get
So there is a really cool section in the Fall of Cadia series, where Araman and Magnus the Red and the Thousand Sons have ambushed Guilliman on his way back, because Magnus is sort of like, I will capture you, and everything will be great. Of course, Ynaid, the god of the dead, is actually with the Terran Crusade, is with Guilliman.
Yes.
And they're assaulted by Rubric Marines. The Avatar,
the Incarni,
sort of looks at the Rubric and sort of does something, and they become physical Marines again. Yeah. And they're like,
the fuck?
What the fuck is going on? Of course, Araman, who's about 20 feet away, goes... What the? How did you do that?
Hang on, wait a minute. Whoa. Yeah. Time out. Yeah. Let's stop all this fighting thing.
Stop the fighting
thing.
What did you do? Yeah. Tell me how to do that. And the god basically opens a tear in the webway and throws both the Marines she fixed back out through it. At which point, Araman goes, No, I need to get them.
And then dives
through after it. And of course, it's closed behind him. But of course, Araman is partially in charge of a big swathe of Rubric Marines, and he has just bogged off.
So they
all go, what were we doing?
Yeah.
And stop.
Giving my feet.
Giving all the sort of the good guys a chance to sort of regroup and push on, and then of course the Legion of the Damned appear, which will get their own edition at some point. But so it's essentially, and then later on in that you get the big fight between Magnus and Guilliman on Luna, on the moon.
Yes. On
the moon. And of course, the accumulation of this fight between what's left of the Terran Crusade, because they've been pretty beaten up at this point, and the Rubric are back, and they're getting sort of waylaid in this massive crater when this huge black ship comes sort of over the crest of the thing. And the sort of the gunships and all the Thunderhawks drop out, and from it come the newly reformed Anathema Psychana.
Yes.
With the thing, and of course they land near Magnus.
Who just goes, oh my fucking head!
As of course all these psychic nulls suddenly appear on the battlefield.
And they react like a lot of guys in the Games Workshop store when a girl appears. She's girls! Sorry, I had to make that joke.
So of course they
Run away to the warp!
So of course then Gulliman gets the upper hand and beats Magnus.
Yeah.
And I believe that he sort of says to the Eldar, well, you've got this, right? You can deal with this. And they're like, yeah, we got Magnus the Red, as they sort of pull him through the webway portal. Yeah. And I don't think we've actually heard of Magnus since the Eldar sort of kidnapped him and dragged him through the webway portal.
Right.
I'm not sure he's done anything since that bit.
I'm not sure. Like,
So
they're not one of my favourite Army Thousand Suns, so I don't really like. I find Azek Araman a fascinating character. He has his wonderful book series written by John French, I believe.
It's a fantastic,
which is a fantastic book series. Yeah, that deals a lot with the shards of Magnus and stuff.
It's very
the thing about Tzeentch is once you start once you start scratching away. You start realising how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Yes.
So, like I said, we will have to have a separate episode on Magnus.
So I think
explain
Magnus,
the shards.
Yeah, the shards are super important as well. So we're going to do that sort of properly all on its own.
Yes.
For the heresy, Magnus was at the Siege of Terror.
Yes.
He did turn up.
As did Araman. Araman breaks into the library.
Yeah.
That's a big part in the Siege of Terror. The final end, he's there with like Kirill Sinderman.
Yeah.
The first of the Inquisitors, and a couple of other characters, and they're all kind of like, oh my god, he's going to fucking kill us, and he's just like, let me just read this book.
And then
he's kind of like, oh shit, what's going on? There's a big like whole thing with him there.
After the Horus is killed by the Emperor, they bog off back into the warp. And back to Saltarius in the Eye of Terror, and they stay there and do very little until Magnus comes back.
Well, there is a cool bit with we haven't had massively explained with Kaon.
Yes,
from the Black Legion novels.
Yeah, he's a member.
He's brilliant. Yeah, he was a member of the Thousand Sons, and he is the chronicler of that story. So he's telling the whole point. The whole great thing about the Black Legion novels is he voluntarily gave himself up to the Inquisition, and he's basically been blinded and nailed to a wall, and he is describing the creation of the Black Legion, how it all came about. And one of the things he says is, because we get like hints of where the story was going and things like that, one thing we know about Kaon is that he was responsible for making Magnus the Red bend the knee to Abaddon.
Right.
Which is a huge, as you can imagine,
huge deal. Yeah.
A demon Primarch bent the knee to Abaddon. What the crunk? Yeah. So that's a story I don't know anything about. We just know it happened.
Yep.
And I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Kaon again, fascinating character.
Very good character.
Really cool.
But yeah, I think mostly now was the return of Magnus was to do with
when he first came back into 40k was because he tried to sacrifice Fenris to return Prospero, but actually ended up sacrificing a planet we never heard of called Midgard, which happened to be in the same system as Fenris. Yeah, we didn't even know at the time. It was hilarious. It was like, that was kind of one of those things that was a bit bungled in my opinion. But they end up sacrificing the planet, and Prospero reappears in the mortal plane, which they have, again, one of those threads in 40k haven't done anything with. I believe
that happened in M41999.
Yes, it was one of the last events. It was the Curse of the Wolfen. Whole storyline.
Yeah, the reason I don't know a lot about that is because it was horrible. It was really poorly done.
And then they tried to start a civil war between the Dark Angels and the Changeling helped trying to start a civil war between the Dark Angels and the Space Wolves, and it was all a bit weird.
I didn't like that particular story, but that was
and that does Return of Prospero is kind of cool.
Yeah,
again,
Return of Prospero is really interesting.
Kind of a thread they ignored.
They've ignored it since then, and I think probably because it was so badly received when they did it. Yeah, it's like we can move on from that now. Speaking of moving on from that now, we have come to the end of Tzeentch and the end of all.
We haven't really mentioned any of the fantasy people.
No, have we got any?
There are. There actually.
Sorry,
we'll quickly mention a couple of them.
Go on.
There are a couple of notable fantasy champions from back in the day.
Oh, go on.
Two of them. One is called Akold Hellbrass, who was a guy on foot with a big two-handed sword.
Okay.
Probably seen him recognise a lot if you see it. His whole thing was wherever he went, life would spring up around him.
Oh.
So he would even though he's a Chaos Champion and you expect all this sort of horrible death and destruction, he'd literally walk through a field and it would just be like flowers and grass and shit.
Oh, very good.
It was really weird. There is more to it, but it's not here. The other one who's quite important is Engrim van Horstman, who
Believe I
people
have
will remember the miniature because he is mounted on the mighty Chaos Dragon known as Bordros.
Yes, that
The
I do know.
two-headed dragon, because Chaos Dragons have two heads.
Yes.
Mostly in old fantasy, they were. He also, so he was a Magister of the Order of Light, one of the 8 colleges of magic, and they have this great big whacking great pyramid where they store all. This is where Nagash's hand is, I believe, and one of the books of Nagash and things like that. This is where they keep all the really evil shit they don't really know what to do with. Is locked up in the pyramid.
Yes.
In the pyramid. Anyway, one of the things was locked up in there because Engrim van Horstman was learning all these things he shouldn't do, like most people do. They learn things they shouldn't do, and he was kind of discovered. And he went, oh fuck, shit, I've got to flee, and realised that one of the things that got locked up in there is another Tzeentchian character known as Galrog, who was a dragon, an ancient dragon who was the first dragon to be corrupted by chaos.
Right.
And fell to Tzeentch, and is this weird mutant two-headed creature, which used to be a special character for Chaos.
Right.
Because it changed the story. So he escaped on Galrog. So he broke out Galrog and used him as a mount to fly away to the northern wastes. They ended up parting ways, and then he ended up with a different two-headed dragon called Bordros.
Oh, okay.
So that's a quick overview.
Yes.
There are a couple. I think there's there's another character which I don't know much about which came out sort of 7th edition, 6th edition, 7th edition, called Tzeentch the Changeling, which is technically 2 characters. They were brothers.
Oh, okay.
Tzeentch himself was really smart but physically crippled, and his brother was big, beefy, strong dude, and Tzeentch was going to be killed or something, I think, and manipulated his brother. Physically, puppeteered.
Oh, yeah.
Then eventually he was like, that's really cool. It'll be really funny if you were both welded to each other. Yes. So he effectively welds this tiny crippled thing to the back of this massive dude, and he whispers in the ear, and he's the one that controls the both of them. So there's more to it than that, but there we go. That's a quick overview of the fantasy champions of Tzeentch.
They haven't really redone the fantasy Tzeentchian stuff yet, have they? I don't think.
We have the Disciples of
Tzeentch,
which is mostly the Zangors.
Yes.
It's mostly Zangors, which are beastmen that are more Tzeentchian.
Yeah.
We don't really have... We have things like characters like the Gaunt Summoner, which I don't really know much about.
No, I don't know a lot about them either.
But I think they're more demonic. They don't really have any real big named mortal characters, as far as I'm aware. Not like Sigvald and all that.
They have the other gods seem to have more sort of...
Yeah, Tzeentch
been coming on.
Yeah, Tzeentch had a big thing at the early days of Age of Sigmar, and then hasn't really had much going on with them since.
No, it's
not in the way the Head Knights of Slaanesh had that massive thing.
Yeah, they got
all sorts of cool stuff that came out, like the Infernal Rapturous, which is the weird Herald of Slaanesh playing a harp, which is made from a dude's sinews of his back and things. It's very icky, but very.
Yeah.
Oddly beautiful model.
Yeah, it's
very
good.
As all good Slaanesh models should
be. You should look at them and go, that's really that way.
Yeah, then the more you think about it, you're like, ooh, yeah. But yeah, so...
Closer inspection.
Yeah, they're one of the factions in Age of Sigmar that can kind of do with a big,
A big do, I think. Yeah, I do like Tzeentch. I don't, like I said, I love Magnus the Red. It wasn't Magnus's fault.
It was. It was his own fault.
No.
He was told, time and again, don't go in that cupboard.
But if you get told don't go in that cupboard, you're going to go in the cupboard.
Yeah, but at first he was like, the whole point, they never tried. He was like, look, you don't need biscuits right now. But we've had tea's coming up in a minute, just leave the biscuits alone. Come on, tea's going to be great. And then he was like, okay, no, seriously, don't go in the fucking cupboard. He started off nice, he tried.
Stop eating the biscuits.
Yeah, stop eating the biscuits. And he's like, no, but I love biscuits.
Yeah, I do love biscuits.
And then eventually the Emperor comes down, and then the kitchen's a mess, and there's chocolate everywhere, and wrappers everywhere, and that's when he was like, fuck's sake.
Yep.
Lehman, fucking tell your brother to, sort your brother out.
Make your brother tidy up after himself.
Exactly, yeah. There we go. That's the story of Maximus as a metaphor for children eating biscuits.
Yes. And it's wholly actually accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
100% lore accurate.
100% lore accurate. So so with biscuits, with Tzeentch aside, and Magnus aside, and now I want biscuits, we're going to call it a day there.
Indeed.
If you are listening on YouTube, please leave a subscribe, a like, a comment. If you have any questions for me, Pete, or Evie, we'll be more than happy to give them an answer on our Q&A.
We collate them for every 10th episode.
We do indeed. We are also available on YouTube, on Twitch, both of us, Onyx Dragon Gaming for Pete and LD Gaming Live for Lazy Dragon Gaming all over social medias. And with that, it is good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
And it's good night from her.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.